All right, hi everyone, Josh here,
And
and
Trevor.
yeah,
Hi.
and so we realized we hadn't updated you in a while on Shared Soul, so we're gonna do a quick just rundown of how the game plays, and I want quadruple stress. This is a pitch prototype. We
Still
know we
incredibly early.
yeah we know that it's not visually to the level of released game, and that there's issues with animation, and we some of the issues we are addressing in the we have a change list in our, and let me get the mouse out of the way there, but we have a change list that we're working on. Like, for instance, one of the things we're working on adding that we hope to have added soon-ish for public playable builds is what they call stop frames, where when you land a hit, there's a second where it stops before the action continues to.
Adds a little weight to the hit.
Yeah, it convinces your audience that the, like he said, adds weight to the hit. So we have plans to add that. Per the Fall Brawl tournament here in Montana, they asked us to add um, traditional fight stick support, so that's coming too. We're also working on some of the animations, because you'll notice that some of the animations are kind of wonky. They're not completely to where we need them yet, and run speeds and jump speeds and all that stuff need to be tweaked still. But the whole point of this demo is meant to show that the general gameplay concept of Shattered Soul can be fun, and so that hopefully we can attract investment and get money to make the full-length version, where we're all working on this as a full-time job and have time to iterate it much faster. So anyways, as you can see here, the D-pad, which, the D-pad right here, is traditional fighting game movement, like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, what have you, forward, back, and crouch. And we made X the jump button instead of up on the D-pad, because it's a little easier for most players, because the vast majority of games out there use the X button for jump. And
Or I guess you would say the vast majority of platforming style or Devil May Cry style.
yeah, and the reason we take that into consideration is if you move your thumb to the left stick, you can then run in full 3D.
Up, down, around, and you actually face away from your opponent.
Yeah, and then when you let go of the stick, you immediately snap back to that 2D on a plane thing. And you'll sometimes see us get caught in T-pose, because again, we're still fixing it. And these two characters, Hai and Kai, will in the end have their own special moves, but we just gave them each a fireball for right now, just because we wanted.
This is looking better.
Yeah, like we wanted to test
Hers is still pretty
blurry.
Yeah, but his is getting some more definition.
Yeah, but we're just testing.
Oh, and then you can actually see like Kai's beautiful art.
Yeah. Let me. Sorry, I totally rotated around you the wrong way. But yeah, we have concept art hidden throughout the tech demo area, for so when people play it, they can find little Easter eggs and stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, the reason we gave them each a fireball and not their own unique moves yet is we want to test the chaos of a fireball-driven fighting game. And one of the ethics of Shattered Soul is, generally speaking, the vast majority of the time, if you can see it, you can fight on it. So we're waiting for this swinging boat ride to slow down a tad, because it does have a full animation cycle. The chair is going to get clocked by it.
Ha.
Oh, and you can actually get hit by it too. So.
Yeah.
And again, you'll see that our animations are wonky. We're still working on them. Keep in mind that our team has been, working their tails off on this, but everyone's doing this in between day jobs and college and all sorts of other life stresses, where we're trying to get to the point where we have the funding to do this as a full-time job. But so now we'll go over here. Like, the other popular thing that people love to do is they love to jump on the Ferris wheel, which also has its own animation cycle. So
Yeah, and again, these are all very rough. Oh man.
Oh, I almost throw a punch. Yeah, because sometimes the characters will get stuck in their T-pose, and that's another glitch we're working out that's on our change list.
She just can't jump while she's moving. Or no, she can.
Yeah, when she gets stuck like that, that's her T-pose, and then you just throw a couple punches, and it will bust her out of T-pose.
Yeah, every time I get hit by the Ferris wheel, it puts me into that.
Yeah, because it's a collision error. Which, again, that's all part of the software development. That's all part of the magic. But
Yep.
And so people love to throw fireballs at each other while their seats pass, and of course, the minute we successfully get on it, it ends its animation cycle.
But it'll start again.
Yeah. But the whole thing that we wanted is over-the-top dramatic fights, and that kind of came from two different more than two different places, but some of our big inspirations include 3D 90s fighting games like Bloody Roar, Battle Arena Toshinden, Power Stone, Urgies, and those games emphasized environment a lot more than a lot of major fighting games today do. And the other thing is that even back in the day, even with 2D fighting games, when you would, like Street Fighter, for instance, one of the things that always kind of stood out to me as a juxtaposition as a kid is, I love Street Fighter. It's an absolute blast to play, so please don't take this as me digging on it. But, I'd play Street Fighter, and then I'd go watch the movie anime that they had, and that epic fight scene between Chun-Li and Vega, where she has to use everything in her apartment that's at her disposal, including grabbing a lamp and throwing at him and stuff.
And you can do that in the game.
Yeah, and busting him through a wall and falling 80 feet, out of a wall and
the only game I can
jumping off the walls
from like the PS2 era was I just lost the name of it. But
Bouncer?
Yeah, Bouncer.
Yeah, Square Enix's game. And even then, Bouncer, they kind of...
Yeah, you still didn't have full control over all the shit that was... stuff.
No worries.
All the stuff that was in the environment. You still didn't have a full, ability to grab whatever you wanted, but there was a little bit more ability. And it was more of a beat-em-up than a... actual
fighting game.
Yeah.
And for the record, we're not convinced yet in Shared Soul that we will have the ability to grab stuff and pick stuff up.
That's just a thought.
But the bigger thing that we wanted to bring in was the free running. Like if you watch that Vega and Chun-Li fight, how they're like jumping off the walls and off the, I forget what it's called, but like the beams that are support along a ceiling, like artistic beams, they were like jumping off of those, and I'm like, why can't I do that in game? Because and we need to fix the bounding box on this too.
Yeah.
Again, prototype.
Yeah.
But
and I see that we changed the zipper a little bit. It looks a lot better.
Yeah, and it's part of
the paint on it looks a lot cleaner now.
I don't think they changed the texture though. Like,
oh really?
Yeah,
I think it's a lot more colorful. I thought. Maybe I'm just used to seeing the real life one.
Yeah.
Another thing I was doing is I was throwing a bunch of fireballs so I could show.
The spam meter, right?
Yeah, which we're gonna eventually rename to something else, but
Yeah, so.
Good
to start over anyways to show it. Yeah. So I'll start circling around to try to avoid getting hit, but you see that little neon green bar that's filling up
beside the health bar.
Yeah, it's like,
although I'm not firing fast enough. Here we go.
There you go. Now that it's blinking.
And now my hits don't do nearly as much damage, and I don't cause pain animations.
Yeah, so basically that initially came up because we got very tired of playing online fighting games where people would leg sweep you, jump to the back and go fireball, 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 and just chip away at your health. And pro players can get around that. Pro players know what they're doing, but your average player is not that good with pixel precise movement to be able to counteract that. So you end up having these players that pull that crap and get what looks like really good online stats when really they kind of cheated to get there.
Yeah.
And so we invented the spam meter, and the whole point is if you do the same special move multiple times in a row, it will fill up all the way, and once it's filled up, it will be flashing, and during the flashing, your hits do almost no damage, they don't cause pain animations, and you're not able to block. So your opponent can bum rush right up to you and beat the crap out of you for move spamming. One thing that we didn't anticipate, though, and it's kind of come out as we've had people play test Shared Soul, is it almost doesn't matter just because the fact that we have the 3D running, that kind of nullifies the fireball spamming anyways. You really have to be smart in how you use a fireball, which is what we wanted anyways, because we want over-the-top moves, we want fireballs, we want that insanity and that nuts and that fun,
and
but
we move cancel and all that.
Yeah, but we want to have it in an environment where you still have to think about how you use it. You can't just spam the crap out of it to get a good online stat.
Yeah, and you don't want it to be the exact same as every other game on the market either. You want it to have its own flair and its own flavor and...
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And the other thing that's nice about the soon to be renamed spam meter is that your fireballs will also shoot off weird once we get it working properly.
Yeah, we plan to have that implemented in code, so if you continue to try spam fireballs, they're just going to shoot off in random directions anyways.
So is that the lamppost I made?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Trevor actually learned 3D modeling and modeling this lamppost, and one of our artists taught him how to texture it.
Yeah, first model I ever textured.
Another Easter egg. And then there's another Easter egg right next to it. This is the... often we show off our target art render of Elamos. That's the concept art that led to the target art render.
Yeah.
Which the target art render is what the actual game will look like, once we get funding and stuff. But
or as close as we can get it at the moment.
Yeah, well, and actually it's really high quality. So
yeah.
The only thing missing is if you look on Elamos right here, you see that he has glowing bands around his waist and his wrists. Those bands aren't implemented into the target art render yet, but it's one of those things.
And it'll look a lot better once it's in an environment and with shaders and not just a gray background and all that. So
yeah, and then that's our main villain
for the first game.
Yeah, Samael, and he's kind of our end boss. I think that's. I have to double check with our artist. I think that's all the Easter egg. Or no, that looks like there's a sandwich board over here, but I can't remember what that sandwich board is. Sorry, I had to get out of T-pose. Again, it's
Issues of
Haya's original. That's an old school one for Haya too.
Yeah.
Although
more roller derby version that she's actually rocking at the moment.
Yeah, because at first we were just going with her with the idea that she's a kind of acrobat, kind of runs a circus with another character that we'll eventually introduce in the story.
Yeah.
But as people played with her, more and more our artists wanted to introduce a roller derby girl aspect to her too, and so that kind of came out and we kind of blended the two together because we liked the...
there still needs to be a lot done with her outfit and stuff too to make it a little less flammable.
Yeah, he's meaning the skirt because the more we thought about it with her, because her whole story is that in the world of Shattered Soul there's characters with superpowers and there's characters without, and we always, and I swear I'm not digging on Harry Potter here, but I always use Harry Potter as an example because everyone understands the world of Harry Potter, so I call it the Muggle problem, that when you're reading a story like Harry Potter, you're only ever hearing about the special people. You're not hearing about the normal people that live in this world where there's such a thing as magic but don't have any powers. So we wanted to explore that. We're like, well, okay, if we're creating a world where some people can have superpowers, what would it be like to be someone without them? And Haya is our answer. So Haya found out she didn't have superpowers, and she said screw that to the world and invented special gloves that have strike plates on the fingers. So she takes a fire, lights it, and then throws it at her opponent. And again, that's not...
Comes from her flair as a circus performer and all that.
And so that's not implemented yet, because again, she only has the fireball right now.
Yeah.
And you see
it's supposed to be when she throws it, she kind of does that little handshake. It's supposed to be Roman candles. Yeah.
So we have the animation there, but again, the primary thing we wanted to test first was gameplay.
And there was another one that I just got to work.
Back forward triangle, I believe, is her leg sweep. Or no.
Back forward triangle.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the leg sweep, but there's another one that was...
where she drops the... Yeah, so we have an animation that she does... That one.
That one, yeah.
She drops a... I believe that's going to be an artillery shell, like those things that explode in a fiery ball.
When you usually put them in a tube and they launch up into the sky. She's basically using it as a grenade.
Yeah, and then just rolls it along the ground at her opponent.
And then you could do, the leg sweep and knock them either onto or do that first and then do the drop and hit it with them while they're down.
Yeah, so we have the animations there, but we're just again, we're focusing
fireball yet.
Yeah, we're focusing on gameplay first, and it's actually when we give talks to kids, we always talk about this thing called play to pretty. That's what we mean. Get it playable first, figure out what people actually like and what they actually attach to and what they don't before you refine it, and way before you actually add a pretty art style to it, because you don't want to spend hours and hours and hours and hours developing a pretty art style for something that turns out is very broken gameplay wise and ends up needing to be thrown out or massively refined.
Yeah.
But like Trevor said, though, we're gonna redo her skirt because the more we got into the firework thing with her, we realized that would probably be a real danger to someone that thought like that she runs the risk of catching herself on fire. So
I'm actually gonna probably I've been trying to get around to designing it, but I want to make it so it's less frilly in front, keep some of the frilly in back, but make it more lay flat, and then have a longer flowy bit that kind of trails downward that you would see on a normal circus performer, I guess.
Yeah, so
kind of think of Yuna in 10-2.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy 10-2, because her skirt had that her main outfit that they always showed the gunslinger. Mm-hmm. Had that half skirt that went down
just
the side.
One leg.
Yeah, and I think that would look really good and maybe make it less frilly, but that same kind of idea I think would work really well, especially with the roller girl and all that. I mean, granted, they usually don't wear long clothing, but it would work good for, I think, Haya.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other character, Kai, is and I guess the last thing on Haya, though, is that one of the big things that piece of art did determine for us was her color theory for it, where the orange to yellow gradient that gives that kind of on a white backdrop that gives that kind of fiery attitude.
Yeah,
but
although there was a hot pink and black one that I liked a lot too.
Yeah,
but that was the more roller derby style, less fire style.
Yeah, this is kind of our merging in between.
Mm-hmm.
And Kai, we need to get some of his moves working eventually too, although that might wait till the final game, but Kai is a character that didn't know he had superpowers, got into a really bad motorcycle wreck where he lost his arms, and while he was recovering in the hospital, he noticed that the cup of water on his bed was rising and lowering with his breath. So he found out he had power over water, and he went and made new arms out of ocean water that he can morph into various battle shapes, including like a staff, a blade, all that kind of stuff. And he does have his own version of a fireball that's actually more of a water ball, which is why we tinted his blue, because it was an easy, quick thing. And we also
he'll come riding in like for his opening move and like coming into the stage. He'll come in riding on a wave of his own water.
Yeah, and we actually got kind of cool thing. You can kind of see that there's tattoos on him, like right there. I'm showing like that. We did generic 90-degree tattoos, but through the process of developing Shared Soul, which by the way, Shared Soul takes place in a fantasy world, like that's like ours, but not exactly ours.
We wanted to avoid any like usage that would cause people to either feel like negatively towards characters or whatever, and we wanted to be able to write stories and backgrounds to countries that didn't truly exist but were inspired by real life.
But so through the process of this, we got in touch with a woman who does Polynesian art out of Hawaii named Urbanesian, and she actually told us straight up that once we get funding, she's going to design Kai a full torso traditional Polynesian tattoo to match the culture that inspired him. So that was really cool, and it's kind of cool that we can get all these different voices of people involved that have helped us really shape Shared Soul. And I'd have to say that one of the funnest things about making this game, even in this rough prototype state, is getting all these other people involved, like our staffers and stuff, where like with Haya, how it went from our idea of a chick who fights with fireworks, and they took in, well, let's add in a roller derby aspect and get this really strong attitude of I'm going to bust you into the sidewall, and that helped evolve her as a character past what we initially thought, and that's just made it such an amazing process. And I can't wait to take this further and I see it playable, because even when we go to expos and like fighting game tournaments around here in Montana and let people play it, one teenager put it best, that he looked at us and said, even in this broken, buggy prototype state, he's like, dude, I can see where the fun is. And I can't wait to play more of it. And I'm like, okay, thank you, new best friend.
Yeah. So how do you do the front flip one?
Down, back, circle.
Okay.
But that one we have to make it a little bit less finicky, because we're still, getting the point of
contact.
No, the hitbox works, but getting the our engine, or well, not our engine, it's Unity, but getting our build of the engine to fully understand multi-button impresses, like how for Street Fighter you go down, forward, punch to throw a fireball.
How like normally you would do a fireball by starting down and slide to forward, and it works, but same thing should be able to be said for the down to back circle. And it does work once in a while, but not every time.
Yeah, circle. That one that's another thing on our fix list.
So if you do it more deliberate, though, where it's down back circle, it
usually
work. It goes. Oh, hey, I gotta go take stuff out of the oven real quick.
Yeah, we heard that going. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed our little preview of Shared Soul here. We will have more playable builds coming up soon for everyone. We hope to have a playable build in time for UkiSoraCon, which is in Helena, Montana on July 21st. At 1:30 p.m., we are giving a panel with one of our programmers, Emily Palmieri, and we're going to be talking about the whole evolution of Shared Soul and what we're trying to do with it, and how we're trying to seek funding for it right now. And we're also going to demo Burst there, so we should have a new build of Burst probably by then, or it might be the same build we've been demoing. Chaos and schedule. But shortly after that, we also have upcoming events in August with Downtown Dyson Games here in Great Falls. The exact date will be determined and announced soon. And Wheels of Thunder Roller Rink, where we will have these games on display, both Shared Soul and Burst, for you to try, so you guys can see, and guys and gals can see how even in places like Montana, you can develop alright, thank you. You can develop companies and develop software and build opportunities and futures with game development. It doesn't have to be a big city only thing anymore, and that's one of the big things we push on people all the time, is that there's so many people, especially in our neck of the woods, that think, believe what we call the great lie, that I was born the wrong gender or the wrong race or the wrong economic level or ability level or geographic location for computer science or video game design opportunities. And we're like, no, that's a lie. It's for everyone. You can express yourself here too. You can build a future here too. You deserve it just as much as anyone else, as long as you're willing to put in the blood, sweat, and tears to make it real, and willing to team up with others to do it. Because, I'll be upfront, it required Trevor and I couldn't have done this alone. We had to team up with a team to do this, and as long as you're willing to work with other people and team up to do awesome things and are willing to stick at it, you can make it and you can express yourself in this medium. And I guess the only other thing I'll throw out there too is that don't think don't underestimate yourself. Don't think you suck too much to do it, quote unquote, but also don't think you're the smartest person on the block, because a lot of what made Burst evolve and a lot of what has made Shared Soul evolve has come from the fact that we have been willing to listening to our staff and listen to people who play tested it so that we could be sure that we were making something that would actually appeal to people.
The big thing with Burst actually was it was a great thought, but the execution was just not getting there yet. And then a couple of our staffers asked if they could take a few days and write a proposal to pitch to us, and it ended up being what saved it.
Yeah, because I might do a separate video about this, and we did a Twitch stream about it, but we give a talk, and we still have the old builds of Burst where we'll show people where it started. And originally it was a asset management sim alongside a rhythm game. Like, you weren't just blowing up fireworks to the beat, you were aware of how many fireworks you had left, and you had to make sure that
shell type and color type,
and had to make sure that you had enough to last the entire show. And it sounds interesting on paper. In execution, it drove people insane.
Oh, it was so boring and hard.
Because to anyone watching, it looked great, but to the person playing, they were so busy on managing numbers and the beat meter that they didn't get to see the fireworks. They didn't get the reward.
And you also had what we called the beat meter, where instead of like the fireworks traveling up like they do now and then exploding in the sky, and you follow them up into the sky and explode them at the right point in the sky, there was a beat meter coming along the bottom that would have a spark coming down like a trail, and then there was a point somewhere on the screen when we moved it around several times, but that point on the screen was where you would blow it up at, and it wasn't working that way because you were following the spark instead of the fireworks.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things that we let people... I mean, they were mostly polite about it. We only had one or two jerks, but politely ream us and say, okay, this part really sucks. This part is potentially fun. And we would take it apart, rebuild it, and we kept doing that until we got to the point where people were just absolutely in love with it, saying, oh my god, I'm having a blast, this is great. And that's why Burst seems so much further along, because it's a smaller project, and also it's been through the ringer a lot more. Where Shared Soul, we're getting to the point where people are telling us, okay, I love the gameplay that's there. Now it's time for us to address some of the stuff on the fix list, like getting the animations to be less wonky and
getting stuff more playable in it.
Fight stick support working, and all of this for Shared Soul, since this is a pitch prototype, is just learning about stuff that will carry over to the final game. Because the final game, we're probably going to take some bits of code, but we're going to start from scratch because all the models are going to be new, all the
environments, all the
animations,
all of it. Like,
the environment will actually make sense because right now we're in the middle of the ocean, kind of, know. But because again, this is all primarily for gameplay testing, and that's one of the things that a lot of people don't see normally in game development if they don't work in the field, is they think that, if you're just talented enough, you go and type some code on the keyboard, throw together some quick 3D models, and you have a bestseller. And it's like, no, it's a long iterative process where you get something
hundreds of hours of work into it.
Yeah, and you get something kind of broken, kind of ish working, have people test it and see where they're having fun and where they're not, and don't focus group it. And what I mean by that is, don't sit them around a boardroom table and say, okay, what did you like, what did you not like, because generally speaking, they won't give you accurate information. They'll be scared. They'll be afraid of offending you or afraid of standing out. What you need to do is watch them play it and see whether or not they're having fun, whether or not they're cracking a smile, whether or not they're trying stuff, because we'll just let people play Shared Soul and we'll quickly explain the controls. And then, invariably, the first things we see is they go jump on the swinging boat ride and they go jump on the Ferris wheel and start throwing fireballs at each other, and they are losing it, cracking up, and having a blast. And we have, female gamers coming up to us and telling us how much they love Haya and how they feel empowered playing as her, not as, she's just a piece of eye candy for the male characters. Like, no, she looks like a badass and she can actually tear it up along with the male character. So, they feel like it's an equal playing field, and that's something that, unfortunately, in a lot of game circles you don't see enough of. But, we get the feedback that's real because it's actually happening as they're playing it and as they're having fun with it, or if they're running into questions or concerns and stuff, and then we can address those too. So that's a much better way to do game design, is to see how people react to a running version of the product than to, again, like I said, try to focus group it, because that will invariably give you tainted information that's, bothered by stuff like group mentality and peer pressure and all that stuff. And you don't want that, because that will just slow down the process of making a good game. But once you get this kind of information and get like how it's good and how people have fun, you can move on from there and develop more impressive builds, especially if you can get funding to pay your team full time.
Yep.
And then you can get to the point where you're developing the full game and everyone thinks that you did it magically and just pulled it out of nowhere. But the reality was, it was a result of, like Trevor said, hundreds of hours of blood, sweat, and tears and testing and a willingness to listen.
Yeah, and willingness to not only work with a team, but take constructive criticism.
Yep.
And sometimes that constructive criticism means that you have to be entirely destructive to your project.
Yeah.
And start from scratch.
In case of burst, it happened 3 times.
We gotta go eat breakfast. It just got out of the oven.
Yeah.
It's hot. Thank you guys for joining us on this quick play of Shattered Souls tech demo. We will see you soon. Once again, I'm Trevor, and this is Josh.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, everyone.